Russia maneuvers carefully over the Israel-Hamas war as it seeks to expand its global clout. Hurricane Otis unleashes massive flooding in Acapulco, triggers landslides before dissipating. Hundreds of miners leave South Africa gold mine after being underground for 3 days in union dispute, and more. Today is Thursday, October 26, 2023, and this is the Dunkley Report, International News Edition. Russia has issued carefully calibrated criticism of both sides in the war between Israel and Hamas. But the conflict also is giving Moscow bold new opportunities to advance its role as a global power broker and challenge Western efforts to isolate it over Ukraine. While Moscow lacks leverage to mediate a settlement in the Middle East, it could try to play on some perceived credibility problems with the West's response to the crisis. It also expects the Israel-Hamas war to distract attention from the fighting in Ukraine and erode support for Kyiv. There are risks for Moscow, however. It could damage its relationship with Israel, which until now has kept it from sending weapons to Ukraine. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees has warned that it is on the verge of running out of fuel in the Gaza Strip, forcing it to sharply cut back relief operations across the Gaza Strip. The territory has been blockaded and hit by devastating Israeli airstrikes since Hamas militants launched an attack on Israel more than 2 weeks ago. Hospitals in Gaza are struggling to treat masses of wounded with dwindling resources. Health officials in the Hamas-ruled territory say the airstrikes killed more than 750 people between Tuesday and Wednesday. It's not clear how many of those killed were militants, and the Associated Press could not independently verify the death toll. Increased Israeli airstrikes are devastating parts of the Gaza Strip, jeopardizing relief operations and leaving neighborhoods in shambles. Strikes on Wednesday destroyed homes and businesses and left many digging through the debris. One strike at a refugee camp killed several family members of an Al Jazeera's journalist. Healthcare facilities are doing their best to treat the wounded, but with supplies that are becoming scarce. The Hamas-run health ministry says at least 6,546 Palestinians have been killed, and 17,439 others wounded. More than 1,400 people in Israel have been killed, according to Israeli officials. U.S. and other officials fear the fighting could spill over into a wider regional conflict. Hurricane Otis ripped through Mexico's southern Pacific coast as a powerful Category 5 storm, unleashing massive flooding in the resort city of Acapulco, ravaging roads and leaving large swaths of the southwestern state of Guerrero without power or cell phone service. While little is known about possible deaths or the full extent of the damage, experts are calling Otis the strongest storm in history to make landfall along the eastern Pacific coast. Acapulco was still mostly inaccessible by road as of late Wednesday. By Wednesday afternoon, Otis had dissipated over the mountains. Japan's Supreme Court has ruled that a law requiring transgender people to undergo sterilization surgery in order to officially change their gender is unconstitutional. It's a landmark decision that has been welcomed by advocates as a sign of growing acceptance of LGBTQ+ rights. The decision by the top court's 15-judge Grand Bench was its first on the constitutionality of Japan's 2003 law requiring sex reassignment surgery as a condition for a state-recognized gender change, a practice long criticized by international rights and medical groups. The ruling applies to the sterilization portion of the law only, and does not address the constitutionality of requiring sex reassignment surgery in general. Israeli officials are outraged over UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres' comment that the deadly Hamas attack on southern Israel did not happen in a vacuum. They say his remarks at a Security Council meeting amounted to a justification for terrorism. Israel's foreign minister canceled a scheduled meeting with Guterres following Tuesday's council meeting, while Israel's Holocaust Memorial said the UN chief failed the test. Israel's envoy to the UN called for his resignation. Guterres responded to the Israeli criticism Wednesday, telling reporters at UN headquarters in New York that he was shocked at the misinterpretation of part of his statement to the Council, as if I was justifying acts of terror by Hamas. As the Amazon drought rages on, public authorities in Brazil are scrambling to deliver food and water to thousands of isolated communities throughout a vast and roadless territory where boats are the only means of transportation. Across Amazonas state, which has a territory the size of 3 Californias, 59 out of its 62 municipalities are under state of emergency, impacting 633,000 people. Hundreds of miners who spent 3 days underground because of a union dispute have left a gold mine in South Africa. A mine official said 109 miners who were held against their will by fellow employees in the mine near Johannesburg escaped earlier Wednesday. Mine officials and the union at the center of the standoff say all of the more than 550 workers who had been in the mine since late Sunday are out. The union says the miners had stayed underground willingly as a protest in support of the union. It denies anyone was held unwillingly despite police and mine officials calling it a hostage situation. The leader of Lebanon's Hezbollah group has met with top Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad officials. The meeting Wednesday is the first one reported since the Israel-Hamas war erupted earlier this month, and clashes began along the Lebanon-Israel border. Israel declared war after Hamas fighters surged into Israel on October 7th, killing 1,400 people and abducting over 200 others in an unprecedented attack. Hezbollah militants and Israeli troops have clashed along the tense Lebanon-Israel border since the day after the attack. In a statement, Hassan Nasrallah agreed with top Hamas official Saleh al-Aruri and Islamic Jihad leader Ziad al-Nakhleh on next steps to be taken during this sensitive stage without giving further details. Analysts say the removal of China's foreign and defense ministers appears to enforce leader Xi Jinping's demand for total obedience and the elimination of any potential rivals within the ruling Communist Party. State media this week confirmed that former Defense Minister General Li Shangfu and former Foreign Minister Qin Gang were no longer serving in office, but offered no details. The opacity of China's one-party authoritarian system creates huge speculation about why the officials left office and whether they will face legal censure. Both Li and Qin were appointed under Xi's watch, indicating they must have undergone close scrutiny, but later faced doubt over their personal behavior or political alliances. Today's news was reported by the Associated Press. This has been the international news for Thursday, October 26th, 2023. Thanks again for joining us here at the Dunkley Report.